to the channel, and today we are indeed doing Supernatural Season 3 review. Now, before I carry on, I do want to just say that yes, last week was where it was due. In fact, it was probably due a couple of weeks back even then. We should be on like Season 7 right now, but now we are still on Season 3. Corrupt Files ruined it, so you're not getting Season 4 today, instead you are getting Season 3. I am recording Seasons 3, 4 and 5 for you, so that way we just get through it and it gives me enough time in the editing room to get everything done, and if I need to re-record I will re-record. But anyway, today is of course for Season 3, so let's get going. And today is good. Well, of course we are on Season 3, so there's some big story beats in Season 3 going forward. But for me, I have got 3 episodes here that I want to point out that I think are the best of this season. Starting off with Bad Day at Black Rock. Now, Bad Day at Black Rock is the one where you get the lucky rabbit's foot. Sam ends up with a scratch cards. You get the obvious blooper in there of Sam trying to hide his laughter when Dean improvises. Well, Jensen Ackles improvises his son of a bitch line. This episode is brilliant, you know, and I think it does set the sort of standards for the humour going forward. That there's, you know, later on, of course, you get episodes that are pure humour with a bit of horror sprinkled in there. Supernatural is one of them rare shows that actually does the comedy and the horror aspect right and balances it out, and that's where we get this here, and it really does show in this episode. We also get the first episode of Bella Talbot, a character which I do feel like they didn't do much with and could have done a lot more with later on in the series. They should have brought her back. Of course, she did go on to play Maggie Green in The Walking Dead, so, you know, I suppose that could have got in the way. She did have quite a bit of a break of The Walking Dead when Supernatural was still on, so they could have easily brought her back in. But anyway, you know, no gripes with it there. I think it's a brilliant episode. It's a fun episode. 2 out of the 3 of these episodes are fun. And we move on to what I think is probably the best episode in this season, and one of the best episodes of the whole series, and that is Mystery Spot. There's no doubt about this. This episode is amazing. You know, of course, you get Dean dying over and over again. At this point in the story, Dean, last season, gave his soul up so that he could save Sam at the end of the season. And we are moving into this territory now where we've got episodes to come where it's completely dealing with Dean and how he's dealing with the fact that he's only got so many months left of the year. You know, it's that sort of thing. The demon deal screwed over the boys yet again. But the Mystery Spot episode, we get the return of the Trickster, who of course from fan base knows that it's Gabriel and not the Trickster. He's also not Loki, which we get in the next season, Season 5. But the Trickster returns. He's messing with Sam and Dean, mostly Sam in this episode. You could argue he's messing with Dean quite a bit. However, from Dean's point of view, none of it happened. So in the end, they just have an interaction with the Trickster. Dean dies. And Sam, and this is the thing as well, I think that nobody talks about the aftermath of it all. Towards the end of the episode, you know, the Trickster does it where it's like, okay, so one last time, one last Wednesday, Dean dies, and doesn't come back. So Sam has to live his life on his own. He ends up killing fake Bobby, and there's just so much to love about this episode. I love the fact that it shows that Sam sort of becomes a bit more of a Dean in the sense of the hunt, but he also recluses himself and becomes a bit Batman-y sort of thing. You know, he just gets the job done. I mean, the way he walks around, the way he eats, he's literally just there, and that's it. Big story beat. I absolutely love Mystery Spot. So yeah, moving on to the next one, and this one follows on from the Mystery Spot. And again, it's a sort of turning point episode for the boys, in the sense that of them dealing with the law. And you get Agent Victor Henriksen coming back in this episode, dealing with them. And of course, you have the demon infestation in there. And you know, it's kind of a small episode when you think about it, in the sense of what goes on, the location, things like that. But I think it is absolutely brilliant, and the way that they bring in Lilith at the end of the episode as well, which is our first introduction to the character. And I think it is just really well done, you know, because when you know, a lot of shows do this sort of lockdown type thing where you're stuck in one location for the majority of the episode, and it's all about more about like the characters developing in a way. Whereas obviously for this one, with the characters already pretty much being developed as it's going, you know, Sam and Dean don't need any more character development. It's already there. And so it gives it chance to breathe and allows it to give you the story that it wants, which is obviously with the demon infestation. Ruby gets involved. So a big thing to happen in the episode is, of course, Lilith at the end. You know, everything's okay. Henriksen's okay. You have the actress who's in Lucifer later on. Yeah, her character's fine. Then, of course, you get Lilith in, asking about Sam and Dean, and they all die. Something that you find out at the start of the next season, which we'll get to next Friday, is that it's not a slow death. It's not a quick death either, it's a slow death. But we don't find that out until next season. Something which I will talk about when we come round to it. For certain reasons, a particular episode where that comes up will come up in the conversation of season 4. So that's it for the good. And when I say that's it for the good, I think this season really does up the game for me. Like, I love seasons 1 and 2, don't get me wrong. However, I do think that there are better episodes within this season, and it pushes the story along a lot more. First 2 seasons were sort of held back with the whole Yellow Eyes, you know. And when Yellow Eyes died at the end of season 2, that chapter closed, and then the chapter of the boys dealing with everything else. Of course, with the infestation of the demons in the whole series, sort of takes over. But I do believe that the season 3 just brings it to a higher level, which is shocking considering something that we'll bring up in the ugly side of things. But we'll hit with the bad, and the only episode that I have trouble with in this season, and it's not a completely terrible episode, but it's an episode that sort of struggles to pick up and just sort of stays at the same level throughout the episode, and that is the Magnificent Seven. The season opener, you know, you have all these demons leaving, and you know, when the Leviathans came around and they did a similar sort of thing, it had the same problem, you know. There was all this release of demons, or in the case of the Leviathans as well, and then it felt like a slow burn to what was going to happen. And to be fair, I don't think it did ever really pick up with the story, and this is the best I could go for it. Again, I don't think it's a terrible episode. It's just my least favourite of this season, and it's the only episode that I can say I really dislike. There is another episode, the one but last, which unfortunately doesn't really feel right for me. But however, I do understand why it's there, and that's why that isn't in the good, the bad, or the ugly, or even getting much of a mention. I don't really think it's a great episode, but you know, it sort of fits purpose. This episode feels like the purpose it fits. It's just to get the ball rolling. That's all that this episode feels like, and that's where it misses certain beats. You know, I mean, Dean's come back from hell. No, he hasn't. He hasn't even gone to hell yet. That's season 4. But season 3, you know, this episode does things right, does it the way it's meant to be done. But again, at the end of the day, feels like it misses something. And that's the problem with the episode. For me, anyway, you know, other people might absolutely love this episode. Or you have a completely different opinion. That's the thing with these videos. Completely my opinion. Now for an ugly thing to talk about with this season. Or an ugly episode, in my opinion. And a god awful thing that they brought in. Which again, I think whenever they have episodes based on these characters, and when these characters are in the episode or in a season, it slows it down big time, especially when you've got the shorter season that we've got here for reasons that I'll come up in a minute. But Ghostfaces, what were they thinking? It just slows everything down, you know? And they even say in the episode it's like 2 months until Dean's deal hits the end of its, you know. And they're pissing about, going on a flipping ghost hunt with freaking idiots who were recording. Like, no wonder that Sam and Dean react the way they react when they see them again. You know? That's the only part I like, is the bleeping out of the swearing that they're doing in this episode, because there's no real swearing in the episode, is there? I'm just going to stop doing that. But, oh my days. Just no, you know? And for me, the Ghostfaces, they had one good episode in the whole series. And it's not this one. It's the first one. The first episode they were in just feels right. It feels nice. And it feels like it should have been a one-off thing. But no. Just no. No. So yeah, I'm not a fan of them. Again, majority rules would state that they actually are really good characters. But for me, I just don't like them. And I'm glad that we got to a point where in later seasons they were pretty much ignored. Or never even mentioned. But the big ugly side of this season, something that can indeed harm the series, and sort of did to a certain extent, was the writer's strike. The writer's strike cut the season down to 16 episodes instead of its usual 22 or 23 episodes that we got like thereafter, up until season 14 and 15. That's where the issue is with this series. You know, you've got a big storyline like Dean going about to go to hell. You know, he's dealing with the demon. And I feel like because they only had 16 episodes and they still stuck in a few like Ghostfaces, where it sort of slowed the story down a little bit. And it's like, okay, if you're going to do that in a series where you've only got 16 episodes, have it a filler episode that actually relates to what's going on in the series, you know? Yes, you could argue that episodes like Mystery Spot and Bad Day in Black Rock, or even Just in Bellow, are filler episodes, but there are filler episodes that fill a goal in the series. Mystery Spot is an important episode because the Trickster's trying to get Sam to understand what life's going to be like without Dean. So there's purpose to that. Justin Bellow, I'm saying that completely wrong, I know I am, but Justin Bellow is a big story beat for bringing in Lilith and for giving a sort of breather between the law and Sam and Dean, because now Henriksen knows. Of course that doesn't last, but to a certain extent it does. I mean, I think the next episode we get with the law problem is season 7 with the Leviathans, and it's the Leviathans full. Could be wrong there, and it's probably something that'll pop up later on in the series, like this video series that I'm doing. But the writers' strike did bring the series down for me. That's why the 16 episodes, it just feels really, I wouldn't say lackluster, because as I said, Mystery Spot, Bad Day at Black Rock, Justin Bello, all brilliant episodes. And episodes like The Magnificent Seven and Ghostfaces don't necessarily ruin the series for me. But I think if you add the extra 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes, then you would have had a bit more of a flesh out, you know, that I could probably understand and forgive Ghostfaces as an episode, because they would have had more time to do a bigger episode for the finale and things like that. But it just feels like it's a little bit lackluster. I don't think that brings the series down, or this season down. So, to give my season review, I would say this is a solid 8 out of 10. Like I said, even with Ghostfaces and even with The Magnificent Seven, it still feels like the series is giving us everything we need and everything we love from Supernatural. And I'm glad that we've got certain episodes in this season. However, there are still weak points in the series, and in some cases it's not. I'd say off, like a 0.5 of the 2 points that I haven't given this season, or what I've taken away from the season, is simply down to the writer's strike. The other 1.5 is down to Ghostfaces. Magnificent Seven doesn't ruin the season for me. It just struggles. But yeah, that is season 3 of Supernatural. This will be coming out for you on Friday. It is Friday now, hopefully. If not Friday, Saturday. But of course, we'll get the editing room. It is currently Monday, so I am giving myself a lot of time to record and edit. But as I say, it's currently Monday, so hopefully we can get that done for you guys. I'm going to record season 4 and season 5 now. So that's the reason why for 3 weeks I'll be wearing the same thing. Once we hit season 5, you know, and once we've done season 5, there may be a little break. I know there's been a lot of breaks. But I may leave the break just so that I can get Last of Us Part 2 completed with the gameplay. So we'll have 2 gameplay videos in the week. Both of them Last of Us Part 2. But that's when we get to Season 5. So yeah, please join me on Monday for the Last of Us Part 2. Part 4 will it be? Part 5, something like that. Then join me on Friday for season 4 of Supernatural. Something which I'm going to do for you right now. I thank you for watching. I've been Scribble. This has been Scribble Sphere. And keep hunting, guys. I'll see you next time.
Just look out for your brother, you idiot.
What?
I lost my shoe.